Welcome to StraightioLab,
an intellectual podcast about straight culture.
and also a stupid podcast about nothing.
Don't say that.
It's just true. I don't want to lie to our listeners.
I'm George Civeris.
And I'm Sam Taggart.
And this is StraightioLab. Podcast starts now.
Podcast starts now. Wow. And just like that, you're listening to a podcast. Did you ever think it was possible? Hi.
I have never been more relaxed.
Is that true?
No.
Oh.
I'm actually so stressed.
What are you
because
stressed
we
about?
have to address the elephant in the room.
Our big trip?
You and I are leaving for a trip in mere hours.
Yeah. Actually, as soon as this is over, the trip begins.
As soon as this is over, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, I know that I have to be packed in an hour and a half. Guess who hasn't started packing?
Oh my God. And this is going to be one of those personal episodes because, see, Misha...
You have already packed.
I've already packed because Misha was like, well, I don't want to leave too late. And I was like, well, Misha, we have to wait for them to leave. And, you know, I'm not trying to judge George's lifestyle, but he will need to pack after we record.
Well, so here's the thing. There is literally no way I will be late because they are... I mean, not to get into the nitty gritty, they are picking me up at a specific time. The rest of our group is coming here at a specific time, and I have to be outside by then. And there's no way for me to not be there.
Okay.
But that's where I thrive, is having that 25-minute period, knowing that I have my ideal period of time. You better believe it's an episode of Friends. And in fact, sometimes in my mind, I will even be like, to make myself feel better, I'll be like, this is the part where they would introduce the B plot. I'm still at intro to the B plot in terms of this episode of Friends, during which I have to pack and get ready for this trip.
Wow, I think you're gonna do such a great job.
A little tip for anyone out there who kind of like needs motivation, who needs coping mechanisms. To me, procrastination is not something you fix; it's something you cope with. I was born this way, baby. No matter gay, straight, or bi.
Yeah, you're on the right track. I got a bigger bag recently. Is this juicy? I got a bigger duffel bag. This is everyone's
No, this is not juicy. I am jumping in to make my presence known before you talk about a bigger bag.
Naomi, don't you think
I got a bigger bag, and this is the thing. People think it's not juicy. My whole life has changed because I used to have to pack economically. Now I throw everything into my big bag.
But here's where you're losing me.
Okay.
I said, okay, we're talking maybe a hard shell Samsonite bag. But then I suddenly hear duffel. I'm hearing you bought a bigger duffel bag, something by definition you have to carry around. How inconvenient. And now I'm thinking, he doesn't know what he's doing. This isn't a frequent traveler.
Absolutely.
No,
to think that you could actually complete a trip with a non-wheeled duffel bag that's to think that making that larger is more convenient rather than actually less.
George, my entire travel fantasy is that I am a college student waiting for the plane to go home for the holidays.
Okay,
and that means I need a duffel for every trip I ever go on. If
this is insane. Okay, first of all, too, I'm sorry, a larger duffel bag. Are we checking this? If you were to be on an aircraft, would this have to be checked? That's my question.
No,
you're lunging it over, hitting an elderly woman in the head.
You heave-ho, when you heave-ho it into the upper...
She tries to say, excuse me, and you're like, shut up, bitch. And then you put it in the overhead compartment. The flight attendants are coming at you left and right. You say, let a man do what a man's supposed to do.
Here's the thing. No, I can handle this duffel bag very well. I have incredible upper body strength because I use the duffel bag all the time. I don't allow myself to get weak because I'm always ready to lift this duffel bag.
Wow.
Yes. Oh, I take this. I'm running the duffel with my stairs. My core is engaged the whole time I'm at the airport.
You've got one dislocated shoulder permanently from
at
a
all
lifetime
times.
of duffel.
My bad shoulder.
Exactly.
Yeah, my bad shoulder.
You have what's known as duffel shoulder.
But when one's good, when one's bad, it just makes the other one feel even better.
So interesting that you say your fantasy is being a college student going home for the holidays when it's so clear that, to me at least, that the fantasy is being a celebrity at LAX. To me, the fantasy is sweatsuit, sunglasses, and kind of maybe your kid's stuffed animal that you're taking with you begrudgingly.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I see that, and that doesn't speak to me.
Yeah.
But that being said, if I were to be photographed at LAX as a celebrity, I think it would be more of a slay to be carrying a duffel bag, because it creates this myth around you where it's like, this celebrity, he has everything, and yet he's carrying an oversized duffel.
Right.
Stars are just like us.
Stars are
You're
just
trying
like
to create
us.
that sort of vulnerability, relatability, something that says, let me follow him on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wait, this is okay. First of all, I want to point out, I was called out for this not being juicy. In fact, we've squeezed a lot of juice out of this conversation. 2, the actual juicy point of this trip is this is the first non-gay trip I've gone on in what feels like a long time.
Sam texted me that it is so weird to not pack a jock strap just in case.
I was like, well, should I bring one? And I was like, where would we go that I would need this?
Wait, why is it not a gay trip? And what makes a trip gay?
And thank you for asking, Naomi, because to clarify, it will be 3 gay couples in a house.
Okay, that sounds like a gay trip.
Right.
It's not a gay trip, though.
But there will not. But Sam's standards are so high when it comes to things that are gay that the fact that we're not planning actively to have a kind of explosive orgy means that for Sam, this is family values.
No. It's the fact that there's no social. There's almost like a Bechdel test of like, if it's a gay trip, you have to be able to find like 4 gay men you don't know just by walking to the store. You know?
Love the idea of a gay Bechdel test for vacations. and how do you define it? This is the Taggart test.
Yeah, it's
The Taggart test.
if you can meet 4 gay strangers on the way to the grocery store,
Then it's a gay trip.
Strangers.
then it's a gay trip. Strangers.
Okay. Not... Because it could almost go the other way around. If you run into 4 gay people you know, that also means you're at a gay destination.
Well, that's a gay destination, but that's like you're in like the New York area.
But then at that point, everyone's gay, and you just happen to know about 25% of them.
Right. It's also, I think,
Yeah.
what takes it away from being a vacation. It's
Right.
them being
Yeah.
strangers is what makes it a vacation.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Makes it a foreign destination, makes it an experience. If you're running into pals, then you might as well just be on the D train.
You might as well just
Exactly.
be at the Bell House, quite frankly. Backstage, getting your photo taken,
Yes.
trying to sneak in a solo shot.
Absolutely.
Should we officially introduce our illustrious guest?
I think it would be so beautiful.
I'm kind of feeling like I'm halfway fully having a conversation with her, but then halfway I'm like, wait, is this allowed?
It almost feels like director commentary, and we're the actors.
Exactly. We're afraid to actually talk back. We're doing the scene, and then Naomi's like, and this is where they lost me.
I'll never forget this part. I'll never forget.
When George made that choice, I said, this isn't a professional.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I have a personal rule. You know, the second time I appear on a podcast, I have officially become a host. And so that's why I just jumped right in. I said, no,
yes.
I will not allow talk about the bag. Because that's what happens when you bring me back. What you've said is, we want that.
And just to get it out of the way, welcome our co-host, Naomi Ekperigin. We all know who everyone is. There's no reason to do introductions. And it is, I would say, it is the perfect time for you to enter the Two-Timers Club. If I were you, I would almost be offended it's taken this long. But I don't want to introduce that kind of feeling into the chat.
No, we cannot bring tension into the chat. I mean, it was funny because when I did receive the invitation from your producer, from your booker, from the Light of Your Life, I was like, do you know that I've been here before? Because she really did describe the podcast to me. And I said, that is so funny. And I said, maybe it's been so long that it's like fresh and different and young and fun.
It was a power move on our part, I'll say it.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
definitely considered shooting you a text before, but then we were like, no.
No, she needs to go through the proper channels.
Let her think we forgot about her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was like, sure, I'll do this. You know I did this before, right? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah, we're different now that we're corporate.
We're different.
I know. You look well. You look young. You have light in your eyes since I saw you last. So that is just nice. That's a good sign. I also want to say I can't believe you would choose to do a podcast right before taking a trip, like leaving for a place.
It is kind of crazy.
It's
Yeah.
a
It is
weird
a little
choice.
insane. We could have moved
Yeah.
it. We could have moved it. Well,
Listen, we don't know what your schedule. To me, you are someone I would characterize as booked and busy.
Yes.
you know what? A lot of it, though, is also spent laying down
Right.
and listening to podcasts about women being betrayed. And that can move around. That can move around. That is flexible. Okay, I am tech avail in most locations, city, states, whatever you need. I just, it's bad. I'm a damn mess. I've been so lazy. Actually, I will say though, when you said earlier too, George, procrastination is something to be, living with.
Yes.
I that spoke to me because I think earlier today I said to myself, Naomi, instead of beating yourself up all day, why don't you just accept the fact that you need to be under the gun in order to get this done? You will get it done, but not until the very last moment when the pressure will kill you.
But it's part of it to freak out. Like you actually can't tell yourself not to freak out is the thing. What am I going to do? Be calm until the very last minute? That's not realistic.
Sometimes true. I do have the opposite problem though, where I'll be like, I know I'm not going to work right now because it's just not hitting me. So I'll like go watch TV and right. just like purposefully waste the time doing something I want to do. And then I don't relax the entire time I'm watching TV. And I actually then beat myself up more because I'm like, you idiot. Why did you think you should watch TV in that moment? That was even worse than just hunching over your computer doing nothing.
Yeah, just like white knuckling it through an episode of It's Always Sunny. Just like, ha ha, ha ha.
What very straight shows you've been referencing, George?
I know, it really is
It's
crazy.
Always Sunny. Yeah. But I know, that's how I feel too.
Well, he's organized the straight vacation.
You organized it. Now, are you in general the organizer when it comes to activities?
That's a very good question.
And that's why she's a co-host.
I do think with this one, I did take a kind of leadership position. This is a vacation wherein, and this is a huge part of it, my partner has invited a couple he is closer with. I have invited a couple I'm closer with. And of course, there is the variable, there's the kind of open question, will we all get along? Will it be an effortless melding together of different political and aesthetic sensibilities? Or will it crash and burn? And do I feel responsible for either outcome? You bet your ass I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely bet your bottom dollar. Uh-huh.
Well, and this is where I mentioned this in the shout out a few episodes ago, but Naomi, I've been told this thing about like group dynamics forming when like kids go to summer camp or whatever. Like this is something that they tell counselors where it's like there's stages, and the stages are forming, storming, norming, performing, and then finally mourning.
What?
So forming is when you all meet. When you all meet, you start like you get to know each other, and there's like a buzz in the air. You're like, wow, these are my best friends. This is amazing. And then storming, you realize you're all human. You crash and you burn. You fight. You get in a big fight.
Okay.
And then norming, you accept each other's differences and have sort of this is what our relationship is. It's normal. And then performing, you know your role and you perform your role in the group. And then mourning is when you separate and you're sad. Yeah.
Camp is over. Wow. Honestly, that feels right. And it also feels that way about regular friendships. You say it's camp, but it's also just meeting people, I think.
100%.
And that's true.
But being in an enclosed space, there is something about, for like for a week, for 4 days, where you're like, well, the clock is ticking.
Right. That's why I don't like
Norming has to happen soon.
Yeah. And this is why I don't really like a group trip.
You don't like a group trip.
I do not like a group trip. I think that group trips are very stressful. I think, and I don't know if it's because, I grew up as an only child. And so for me, relaxation, comfort is being by myself. So if I were going to go on a vacation, having people around and like, where are we going to eat dinner? And then talking about that for an hour before we actually pick a location, that is very upsetting to me. Okay? Having to get up and like talk to someone and ask them how they're doing off the bat. No, I don't like it.
So, and this is something, and let me know if this gels with what you're saying. One difficult thing is when you're on a group trip, of course, you're suddenly a family. And when you are a family, someone has to be the mommy, someone has to be the daddy. It's heteronormative. and then the rest of them have to be the children. And legitimately, you see yourself falling into those roles quite often, for instance, the people that are the mommy and the daddy are the people, let's say, who book the Airbnb, or the people who the people who drive. I always find, because I don't drive, sometimes I immediately fall into the role of little Bobby. He pooped his pants. And so sometimes the role that you naturally fall into is actually one you haven't consented to. And I think that's where the tension starts.
That makes sense. That does make sense in a way. I think for me, though, it's because I do want to be in charge. And by virtue of adding more people, you lose control, right? Like, I can kind of set the tone. I mean, even when Andy and I do something together where I'm like, are you ready now? You know what I mean? Like, I have to just, like, respect another person's schedule and movement and speed. And, you know, I don't like to do that. I don't like to
that can
do
be
that.
hard.
Yeah, that can be really hard. I think I like to be the child, and I get upset when people don't let me be. Where it's like, why aren't you guys handling this properly? Now I'm gonna have to be the dad. Like, I shouldn't be the dad. I'm the boy.
That definitely makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. You saying that checks out 1,000%. You want to be the boy. You would like it to be handled around you. Yeah. But then also, like a daddy, you packed well in advance.
It's true.
You know, and that's interesting. Whereas, like, I think George has the daddy sensibility with the little boy behavior.
Yes. Okay. Well, that is honestly a huge drag of my entire character. But also, I would like to say,
a genius.
It is actually genius and apt and astute. But there's also, just to push back on that a little bit, I think Sam has almost internalized the advice of the teacher, the advice of the parent, and he's like, I'll get a gold star if I pack ahead of time. Whereas I'm like, yeah, I'm an adult. Like, I'll do that. Like, I know when we have to leave, we'll leave. It'll be, it'll be okay. I'll pack everyone's bagged lunches. I'll put the apples in with the PB&Js.
George, I just think it's so problematic that you think to be a boy, you have to be a bad boy. Like, you can also be a good boy. And
that's true.
It's not inherently.
But you are being a good boy.
I'm being a very good boy. But
yeah,
I'm
you're
still
being
the boy.
a good boy. But you're still a boy. I see. Yes.
It doesn't take away my boyhood to be a good boy.
Right. Well, perhaps what draws us to one another and why we have such a fruitful friendship is because in the daddy/boy spectrum, we are complementary. Where your daddiness ends, mine begins, and where your boyhood ends, mine begins.
Sure.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
That.
Let's call Richard Linklater. You know, we have to do that. That's it right there. Now, do you guys have go bags? Because I have at all times a separate go bag that has all of my like travel version of all my toiletries. I've got I got a backup Lexapro, backup Wellbutrin, okay, ready to go. Because that's the stuff you will forget when you are packing last minute, you know?
And,
so that's the question.
And I will say, it seems so simple and I should have it, but it is something I fantasize about having as though it's not doable, where I'm like, I want to have a toiletry bag with all miniature versions of things I already use, to know that that's there, to know that if I am called for a last minute business trip, they say you have to go perform comedy for the Pfizer conference in Atlanta. And I'll say, what time's the flight?
Yeah.
But I somehow, that really is something that actually makes me feel kind of like a teen, like a child. Like I don't have that down. That makes me feel less like a celebrity at the airport.
I do have that down.
Of course.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the thing is, what I'm realizing is like, I can push back as much as I want, but you really are more of a daddy and I'm more of a baby.
In some regards. Not all.
And it's almost like I'm actually trying to overcompensate at all times by over theorizing and whatever else. And it's like, it's very like takes one philosophy class. I'm home after the first semester.
And you know the
and I
meaning of life.
think I know more than I do.
You're correcting me, and I'm like, well, good luck putting food on the table. Some of us pay taxes.
But it's so funny because I think of Sam as such a manic pixie dream boy. I think of Sam as very whimsical. It's funny, Sam. Do you know I realized I didn't have your electronic number. That's what I call a cell phone. I didn't have your number, and I was like, because I really want that song Randoms. You have a song about randoms, and I really would like to own it and have it. And I was just thinking about that show where I was just like, Sam is so whimsical, honey. He's giving you like silver shorts, and he's dancing and he's having fun, and it's just like, what is even happening? We don't know. It's whimsy. But now this is what we love about StraightioLab. Okay, we peel back the curtain, we find out he's out here with a go bag. He's out here pre-packed. He's out here planning.
Yeah.
And thinking ahead. You know what I mean? So almost like, you know what you guys are both like? This is what I've decided. In each of us, there is a Zooey Deschanel and there is a property brother. And the question is, who's in charge at any given time?
Right.
This is the most genius binary I've ever heard in my entire life.
And you know why it's genius, actually? Not because even if you pull back layers to the binary, you realize Zoe actually is the business bitch and not the manic pixie dream girl. You think that the stereotype is that she's the manic pixie dream girl. Guess who pays the bills? Not the property brother. The property brother, when he wears a suit, that's drag and it's a costume. He's not a businessman. That's literally his costume for his little skit.
Oh, absolutely. He's playing in a sandbox.
He's playing in a sandbox.
Like his property, he's like, I have my 2 L's. Bang, 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 bang,
exactly.
bang.
He's playing in a sandbox. Zoe is the mom out of frame with her martini, like, he loves the sandbox.
Exactly. Let him, he's building an addition. Let him do it.
Sure. Keep filming.
That's it.
Wow. Well, I mean, we created a dichotomy. Should we do our first segment?
I do think we should. You know, I'm realizing there's this pattern, I think, that happens on this podcast where we create a dichotomy in order to then complicate it. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's accurate.
We introduce it and we're like, wow, it's so true. There is A and then there's B. And then one of us goes, you know, A is really like B and B is really like A.
And then it gets so to a point, like, even because at first when Naomi introduced this, it was like, okay, we can run with this. We can find some things that are in both squares. And then George, you complicated it. And then it was like, oh, and now I don't know what to put in either square.
Right. I didn't even let it land, actually. Like, I didn't even let Naomi have the point she was trying to make.
Yeah, you picked it up before it fell to the ground.
Right,
and you hurled it across the room.
Yeah, no, it was very, Naomi was like, you know what I think? And I was like, and let me tell you why that's actually different.
and honestly, both of them I loved. I did genuinely. I think they both work. It's just following. Then it put me in the awkward position of like, okay, well, now I have to speak and put something in a box. But if I choose Naomi's method or if I choose George's method, I'm choosing a side, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that.
Naomi, I have a question for you. Are you currently in front of a ring light?
No, I'm not.
You look truly photoshopped.
Thank you so much.
Would you not agree, Sam?
I fully agree. I was like, she's gonna say yes.
Yeah, and actually, then I was worried that I would like be calling you out if you said yes, which I celebrate. If you are in front of a ring light, I 100% celebrate that.
Well, if I was, you would have seen the little ring in my glasses.
Right,
you know what I mean? There's no way to fight it. There's no way to like not show that you're in a ring light with the glasses on. So I was like, no, I'm very honored that you think so. This is just a little bit of natural light from the side of the apartment.
Wow.
Of course, because of course you are 3 hours behind, and you know the kind of evening scaries have not caught up to you. You're still glowing. Cut to 3 hours from now.
Yeah, honey, at 7 p.m. it gets worse.
Yeah.
Warning from the future.
Yeah, warning. No, Naomi, cherish it. Cherish it is all I can say.
I remember 4 p.m. At 4 p.m., I was feeling so excited. I got an email that it had like a little bit of work that was like easy, so I would feel like I was getting stuff done. I obviously didn't get it done. That's what I learned at 7 p.m. is that I was not able to get that done.
Right.
But at 4 p.m., it felt like I could.
At 4 p.m., actually, that really is when the day turned for me, because I got a text from my mom saying she wanted me to mail something internationally in a way for it to arrive on Monday. Just for anyone keeping track at home, it is currently Thursday.
It is currently Thursday, and she wanted to... I'm sorry, what? What does she need?
And if I can just say...
Get her.
No, I will not get reimbursed for what I pay for this for this envelope that I ended up paying $101 for. By the way.
Oh my God, Dalmatians. A full set of Dalmatians.
That is a full set of Dalmatians.
But are you doing this, are you sending this to her or on her behalf? Okay, so she needed it. She was like, get it to me.
No, I'm sending it to her.
Okay.
I mean, it's a long long story. A big part of my parents living abroad is that a lot of things get sent to me because they're like because they're like American things, and then I have to be kind of the butler, if you will.
Wow, but she needs it Monday. That's
she needs it Monday. Of course, no explanation as to why she needed it Monday.
Wow.
Doesn't seem that important to me, to be honest.
She's your mother, okay? She doesn't need to
She's
tell
my
you
mother.
why.
She's my mother.
And that's
Yes.
the thing. That's very. I relate to
but
this.
my point is 4 p.m. was when it was like, oh, now I'm a man.
Yep. You were a dad. You were in charge of that moment. You had to get stuff done.
So I wonder what that'll be for you. Not to stress you out, but at some point in the next half hour, the equivalent of my mom asking you for something will happen.
Right. Something's going to change. Something's going to change for me, and I need to just steel myself.
Yeah.
It could literally be this podcast. Like when this podcast ends, you could be like, I started this podcast at 4 and it's over at 5:30. Now my day is ruined because I didn't send that email and everyone's out of office already.
You know what? Let's take advantage, though, of this time when Naomi looks like she's in front of a ring light. She still has light behind her eyes. She has no idea what's coming. I mean, it's like this is the kind of the before sunrise. What's the first of the before movies? The one where they're young.
Sunset.
Before sunset.
Uh-huh.
We're talking Julie Delpy.
Is that another Richard Linklater?
Yes.
Wow, it's the Linklater hour.
I didn't even plan it.
You guys.
Okay, Naomi, we're gonna just go ahead and do our first segment.
Okay.
Because we have to, or
to
else we
take
could literally
advantage
talk forever.
of this youthful energy.
Yeah.
Our first segment is called Straight Shooters, and in this segment, we ask you a series of rapid-fire, nonsensical questions where you have to choose one thing or another thing in order to gauge your familiarity with and complicity in straight culture.
Okay.
The one rule being, you are not allowed to ask any follow-up questions about how the game works.
Okay. Do I have to explain my answer? No, I just say the answer.
I hear a question coming.
Oh, correct. You're correct. Continue.
Sam, take it away.
Okay, Naomi. Doug Funny or Young Money?
Doug Funny. Absolutely.
Julia Fox or Amanda Knox?
Amanda Knox.
Wow.
A touchdown, a rub down, or a throwdown?
A touchdown.
Serving looks up and down New York City or serving your husband divorce papers after you caught his cheating ass with the nanny?
Serving your husband divorce papers.
Call me by your name or call me mother?
Call me mother.
Joe Biden's facelift or Elon Musk's hair transplant?
Elon Musk's hair transplant.
Being in your bag, being out of the box, or being off your rocker?
Out of the box? Was that?
The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx or the linguine with pesto and a picture of Margs?
The linguine with pesto and a picture of Mars.
Okay, she's going fusion. And I thought maybe that would turn you off because it's Italian and Mexican.
Yeah.
But you don't mind.
Not at all. Delicious.
Wow.
Wow. I'll say it. I think that might have been a perfect score, 1,000 out of 1,000 doves.
Yeah, I think that was 1,000 doves. I would have to argue the same.
Yeah, and which happens occasionally. I would say, maybe once every few episodes, but obviously, you had a running start having already been on the pod, but there was a confidence there. There was a whimsy there, and there was also an appreciation for the unexpected.
There was an honesty.
It was giving Miranda July.
Oh my God, that is truly the highest honor. Talk about manic pixie. That's the new bit. That's the new binary. Are you a Miranda? Are you a July? Which one are you in any given moment?
Wow. Wait, I also have to bring up one thing that's a little just a peek behind the curtain for George. George, to bring up Margs in this podcast, the way that you are obsessed with margaritas, I am loving. I actually think it's so wholesome and sweet and makes me laugh so much.
Okay, so here's what happened is last time, so my boyfriend had someone over that is he's like in his 70s and is someone that, Matthew works with and is like someone who's kind of an authority figure. And this was in a kind of vacation environment. And so I volunteered to make a pitcher of margs for him and his wife. And they were such a hit that I now think I am like, when, we're going on this vacation, I told Sam in the list of things I'm going to make, I said, and I'm going to make a pitcher of margs. So don't worry, I have the limes.
But even when you pitched the trip, you were like, I'm fantasizing about sitting by the pool with margs. And then like, even I think there was a time like a week ago, you were like, and it was when we were talking to John early. You were like, and I want to make margs. And then the text was like, and I'm making margs. And I'm like, I love that you were like making your needs known in such you're like, this is not a passing want. This is what this trip is.
Yeah.
Yes. The brand for the trip, the logo, the trip is margs. Also, I just like that you're committing to only saying margs. You know what I mean? Like, that's how serious you are. Not the full word. Okay,
no.
Just margs. You know what I mean?
There's something about a pitcher of margs. It just has such a nice ring to it. And listen, was I thinking today about whether or not I would also infuse the tequila with jalapenos? Yes.
Wow.
Was I then thinking maybe I'll make one spicy batch, one non-spicy batch so that everyone can be happy? Obviously I was.
Wow, this is amazing. If I don't see an Instagram story about a marg with a picture of a pitcher, I'll be livid.
Wow.
We'll all be in our jock straps drinking margs.
And it's going to be called Straight Vacation.
Straight Vacation.
Yeah, we'll all be frowning. Too straight.
National Lampoon Straight Vacation.
Do you know what else and this is the last thing I'll say? We are making a fresh direct order that is going to the house where we're staying tomorrow morning. And you better believe I put guacamole ingredients in there to go along with the margs.
Oh my God. I'm packing a bag. I'm showing up at the house.
So what I'll say is like, yes, in my packing, I'm boy. In my planning, I'm daddy.
Yeah. No, that's huge actually. And that is kind of another level. And I, to be honest, am surprised and impressed.
Thank you.
Wow. You guys.
Wow. We are all growing
each other.
and
You
learning.
complete each other. I think it's like beautiful to watch.
I do think we do. And
Yeah.
it is the biggest blessing of my life. Naomi, I do want to get to your topic.
Yeah, I think it's
Sure.
smart actually.
Sure. So I felt like, something that, again, you guys have covered so much, such a cultural, historical, societal deep dive. I said, what's left? What's next? And something that's just been really getting to me, I just want to talk about teenagers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think teens, they abbreviate. Teenagers, teens, there's nothing straighter. I don't care what Euphoria says. I don't care what they're trying to do. Okay? These teens are being forced to be straight, to act straight, to serve cis. It's like a lot.
They're serving cis.
It's too much. It's too much. Don't you find teens to be aggressively performing? They're performing and storming,
Yes.
and then they're they're norming.
Yeah,
and I'm
they
mourning.
norm later.
And we're mourning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The older we get, the more we're mourning when we see a teen.
Exactly.
I think dragging Euphoria into this is a really interesting angle because I do think the media wants us to believe that teens now are all queer.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I've been to Michigan. Like, I've seen a teen. And they are still in like a basketball tournament t-shirt and like being like throwing dirt at a girl that they want to have sex with or something.
Yeah, throwing dirt. That's what they're doing. They're throwing dirt at a girl. Classic teen behavior.
You also cannot, no matter how queer everyone is, you simply cannot get past what teenagers look like. You're gonna look awkward. There are gonna be height differences. You're gonna have acne. You're gonna not have figured out your sense of style yet. Like, yes, there will be some kids that are cool, but teenagerdom as a mythical space will always be straight.
Absolutely. I will tell you what really got me. So a couple months ago, I went to see a friend's daughter in Legally Blonde Jr., which is the children's musical of Legally Blonde. Okay? At a middle school in Pasadena.
LA is a crazy place.
That is crazy.
It was.
Oh,
there's actually,
interesting, Naomi, because I went to the Philharmonic.
Honestly, this is the greatest theatrical experience of all time, of my life. And it was just, and of course, Legally Blonde in general, you know, this is a show that's very much like Bend and Snap, where girls were young, a lot of like sorority action. But you saw, because it was like grades 4 to 8, right? So you're kind of coming into teendom, and the leads were the 8th graders, okay? The girl playing Elle, she carried it. All right, she carried it vocally. But it was interesting to watch them, you know, these kids at that age, that in-between age, kind of coming into teen and sort of, and even the young boys having to play, I'm a jock. What is it, Luke Wilson or Owen Wilson? Whatever the Wilson was. You know what I mean? Like having to be like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then they had a young girl play the Victor Garber character.
Oh.
Like a bitchy, cold older girl, you know, giving us Victor Garber. But it just felt like it's interesting to see how early and how young they start to perform gender, regardless of their sexual identity, right? You know, you go ahead, like there's a way they're being taught to play it from as young as like 9 that I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That is cruel. That reminds me of like, I think I've mentioned this on the pod. One of the embarrassing things I did as a teen was this thing called Showtime Dancers. It was like for the talent show in Michigan when I was in Michigan. There was this like dance group that would like do little dances between every act, and I was part of this. I don't know. And
wait, between? So not the talent show itself. You guys are not.
We were like
in
between the acts. Like we were like the little. Okay. We were the glue that held it all together. And it's very confusing when you say it out loud, and it feels like I made it up, but I swear it was real. And we would do like partnered like ballroom dances.
Oh.
And it was like I'm 13 pretending to like be a big man in a tux, like doing a throw with a girl that I'm like, is this supposed to be sexual? Is this supposed to be art? What is this?
Yeah. Oh no. Why do we make kids do things like that?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, like little dresses up and dances, and like, to me, instead of doing Legally Blonde, there should just be like a kids musical. It's like, they should all write original pieces about like being in 7th grade. You know what I mean?
You know what? While I agree with you theoretically, you would have enjoyed that a lot less, I think, as an audience member.
No, I want HBO's Girls of 7th grade.
Oh my God, now that I love.
I want raw, real.
Hello, the secret lives of high school girls.
Yeah.
The secret lives of middle school girls. I mean, think about it.
It's interesting. Speaking of the secret lives of girls and you know, the sex lives of college girls, that show, of course, on Netflix, I want to say. There is a way in which it's almost, there's teenagers in real life, and then there's also the media representation of teenagers, both of which are in fact straight, but in just very different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And also you kind of think like, would teenagers even know what to do if they hadn't been raised on those shows?
Right.
What would it look like in a vacuum? What would it look like to be a teenager without having, you know, for us it was whatever, the OC or Gossip Girl or 90210 or whatever.
Thank you for referencing my time, 90210.
I'm trying to think what's the other one, not 90210, the other one of that era. Ugh.
Saved by the Bell?
Saved by the Bell.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Beats
it doesn't
me.
matter. Yeah. Okay,
Doesn't
well,
matter.
anyway.
Melrose Place.
Yes, that's the one. Melrose
okay.
Place. Thank you, Olivia.
That's the one.
But I do wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
So much of what I was doing as a teen was trying to emulate one of the characters that I related to most in those shows.
Right. I mean, remember, like, we all know famously Andrea from 90210, Andrea, was like 32. You know what I mean? Like, playing an adult, she is now like the SAG president or former SAG president. You know what I mean? Like, she was very much. And so it's just funny because we were constantly trying to emulate these teens as played by people in their late 20s.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Right? So it's like even more like hormonally jacked. Like, an actual 17-year-old boy is not serving Luke Perry. You know what I mean?
No.
But like that's what you were supposed to be doing, and that's what we were modeling. Even though it's like, even if we were, those people weren't even our age, so there was no way to get that right.
But then there was that one boy who somehow was. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So just like there's one, like you're all 13 and there's one guy who just like does actually somehow you're like, wait, have you been actually doing a strict regimen this whole time?
I mean, yeah, being around like the grown-up teens that are your age, I was always like very confused. And I was like, am I supposed to reach their levels? Like, I think we're just sort of on different pages.
It seems so out of touch, or not out of touch, out of reach.
Yes.
And I was always like grateful to have a younger brother because I was like, okay, I can like sort of retreat like to the child self because I don't need to like go out to the high school game and like pretend to be 30. I can like go back home and like play Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever.
Well, I felt like, because I grew up in New York, in Manhattan. I mean, I went to Dalton, which was famously in Gossip Girl. And I think that like that layer of money and wealth did also play with like people really were acting grown up and trying to be grown up because they had access to certain things, right? Like I think a suburban teen versus a city teen can be very different in terms of what kind of trouble you have access to get into.
Yes.
And so it would always feel like, but like I was a nerd, right? So like, yeah, there were the kids who were like doing coke at parties and, having like, drinking and doing stuff. Whereas like for my 16th birthday, I think we all watched Billy Madison at a friend's house. You know what I mean? Like it was like pizza and a movie. And that was my idea of a good time. But certainly other people I knew were doing the hard stuff.
That is crazy. That is dark.
What were y'all like in high school though? Were you very were you partiers? Were you out and about? Were you getting into trouble?
Sam?
I was a good boy through and through.
Good boy through and through.
I was like, I would go to the parties, but I was always like, yeah, I don't drink. Like,
really?
Yeah, that was like,
wow.
I was like, what is it? If we're like characters in the show, who's the OC guy who's like the indie guy who like people
Adam
like
Brody,
Adam Brody? I was always like, that's me.
Wow. So it's not that your parents like forbade you, like you would go to the parties, you were allowed to go, but you naturally were like, not for me.
Yeah, I think, I moved in the middle of high school, and in Michigan, my like friend group hadn't started drinking yet.
Yeah.
And in Virginia, when I moved there, everyone already had. And so I was like, it's actually, instead of like being like, it's easier to pretend to not want to and sort of not fall into it than to like be like, I've actually never had a drink. Does it hurt? Like, I was just like,
right.
you're like,
oh, I'm in recovery. Like, you're 12.
So yeah,
Wow,
I think I missed the natural progression.
So then it wasn't until like college, like once you left.
Yeah, like I graduated high school, and then like that summer I started drinking.
Oh, okay.
And it was also, my parents were they were sort of like, you can drink as soon as you graduate high school, like, but don't drink before then. And I was like, all right, that's pretty easy for me.
Interesting.
Wow.
I didn't drink until junior year of college.
Wow.
Yeah. None whatsoever. So
that's crazy.
Cool.
It is so rare for me to be the bad boy of a group of people that I'm with.
This is what we established today's episode. You're the bad boy.
I mean, it really is true. I'm the other one from the OC. The one who moves from Chino.
With the blonde one who's on Gotham?
Yeah. Although I guess his brother was the bad one, kind of. Like, he was, of course, coded as bad because he was poor, but then had a heart of gold. And then his brother, was unable to escape the birthright of being bad.
Okay, I have not seen the show and I need to see it. I
It's
didn't know
really
that was
good.
it. I didn't know that he was, because I just think of him as like he was like blonde good boy. I didn't know that he was supposed to be like a poor kid.
So he is from the wrong side of the tracks. I can't remember how he ends up with the Coens, but he then becomes kind of like adopted into Adam Brody's family's home. They're the rich ones.
Okay.
And of course, everyone in Orange County is rich.
Right.
But yeah, he is the fish out of water.
And then were you then, are you saying you're the bad boy of the group? Like, were you, tell me what you were doing?
Well, so I went to middle school in suburban New Jersey, and it was like not X-rated at all. But then when I was 13, we moved back to Greece, and then as I've like said many times on the pod, in Greece there's no drinking age. Like I was able to go to clubs when I was like 13. Like
Oh, wow,
I must
okay.
have, of course, in retrospect, I must have looked so stupid. Like I truly had not gone through puberty yet, and I was like, I think I would order a screwdriver. And
As a child?
because that's what I was like. Somehow I don't know. It seemed I was like, oh, orange.
Right, yeah, orange
You know,
juice.
it seemed approachable. Or I like the bottled, like a Smirnoff Ice or Bacardi Breezer. Those were very popular at the time. I don't know if those made it stateside.
Yeah, they did. They made a splash.
So I was like, so I never really, I mean, sure, it's not like it was celebrated by my parents, but I never really got to feel like I was doing something wrong or illicit.
Uh-huh.
And then the one thing, of course, that I did that was really not allowed is I started smoking cigarettes when I was in high school. And I still remember when my parents caught me smoking a cigarette, it was truly as though they had seen me like do human sacrifice.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact, my sisters who are younger at the time had not like grown into their own rebellious phases yet. So they really had like internalized this correct idea, by the way, that smoking is bad for you. And so I remember we were all on a family vacation. I had peeled off with some friends. I was probably like 15. So the friends and I were having a drink while the adults and the younger kids were all at dinner. But then I didn't know that they would then take a walk and pass the bar where we were at. And I just in slow motion saw my parents make eye contact with me, and then their eyes go down to my hand that was holding a cigarette. And then all the blood drained from their faces. Just like he did the one thing we told him not to do. And then I was staying with my sisters in the kids' room in the hotel. And I remember waking up next to my sister and her opening her eyes and just looking at me with the most disappointed look I've ever seen. And she's like 5 years younger than me. And just
younger?
her being like,
oh, God.
yeah, because they were like kids. They weren't like older and disappointed in me. They were like kids and were like, oh my God, our brother is a delinquent. And she was just like, she said something along the lines of like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Oh my God.
That is crazy.
A 10-year-old.
Well, that's extremely dark, George. I'm glad
For
you
a
chose.
10-year-old to look at you and just be like, I expected more. That is the moment you became a comedian. Okay?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
that's the
I
bottom.
really do. There was something about, I don't know. It's like I really was doing everything right. And like,
Yeah.
I do, and of course I understand as a parent how you'd be like, oh my God, no, don't do this thing that is going to kill you. Of course I get that. But there is a way in which you need to kind of anticipate that a teen will rebel in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Can't relate. I didn't rebel until I was in my 20s.
But I'm also seeing you though, but you to me now, this is a classic teen. It's straight culture.
Yes.
It's vodka in the club and a ciggy. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
100%.
Like you're being like that's like you were putting it on. You were putting it on, performing the role, and then eventually leveled out. Now though, after that night, when they found you, did you stop smoking or did you just hide it?
Wow.
Okay, so you kept
I
doing it
hid
for a
it
while.
and not well. Like to the point where I'd be like in the passenger seat having very clearly reeking of cigarettes. Like there's no way. I had one like 5 minutes before in the passenger seat with my mom, and I would think that by just kind of exhaling to the side, like that would be like enough. And of course, in retrospect, I understand that it's for my mom. It was just like, well, she can't start yelling every time I'm in the car, so she just like didn't yell. But in my mind, I thought I was getting away with it.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow. You little delinquent.
I was
Yeah, you-
also like,
you
I would
owe
go
her
into the
that package.
bathroom, like, because there was like a downstairs bathroom and an upstairs bathroom. I would go into the downstairs bathroom, put towels under the
At
door,
the door crack?
and then smoke outside the window.
Okay, but then the bathroom still smelled like
It
smoke.
stinks.
It
It'll
did.
stink.
It sure did.
Wait, Naomi, I want to know why you didn't drink until junior year of college.
So I was afraid of alcohol. I was afraid of like being drunk and being out of control. Everyone I knew who was drinking, it was like they would drink and then do something. You know what I mean? Like it would be a drama, and it was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I was wasting. Like, so I was very afraid of that. And I was like, and also I think when I got to college too, where it's like, well, why do I need to drink? Like, because you're drinking to change your consciousness. And I'm like, well, I'm only doing that if I don't want to be where I am anyway. in which case just don't go. You see what I'm saying? Like I was a lot more like.
That's such a mature, like that is so not how I was, where my brain was at when I was a teen. Like I was like, I wanna be drunk. I wanna know what it's like to be drunk.
Oh, well, it changed. It happened. You know, junior year really made up for lost time. I think still doing it, you know. But I think it was also a year that I was also, I was much more controlled and much more afraid of doing something. I think when I was younger too, you know, that self-consciousness, I didn't want to not be in control. I was so worried about what people thought of me or were saying about me or would say about me that it was like, be in control and pay attention and just keep your head on a swivel, you know? And so I was real controlled. And then when that went away, it was like, next thing you know, honey, I'm falling asleep on the D train, getting woken up by the conductor. Okay? I mean, second time I brought up the D train in
And
one
she
podcast.
doesn't mean the subway, folks.
Folks. Honestly, Naomi, I had a similar thing. Maybe this was more of the high school part, but I was like, if I drink, I'm going to come out of the closet. Like, I was like, if I drink, I'm going to feel comfortable enough to tell people I'm gay. And so that's got to be locked up.
You got to lock it down. You cannot let that.
And
weakness.
I was right. I obviously came out of the closet while drunk. Like,
What, the first time you got drunk, you were like, I'm gay.
not the first time, but like, it was definitely like my first year, second year of college. Like, I was like, I'm drunk and,
You know what? Then I understand more like where your attitude was coming from, because it was, not to put this on you, but it was almost like a repression thing. It was like, you didn't want to be loose because you didn't want to be not clenched.
right.
Yeah. You didn't want to reveal, especially it's like, my God, from Michigan to Virginia, you don't know what you're getting into when you get to that new high school.
Oh God, no.
When you start, do you remember having a moment like, you know, in going to the new school where you were like, I'm going to reinvent myself, or like, this is going to be the new Sam, you know, anything like that?
Well, I thought I would, because I had moved before and kind of crushed it. I kind of thought I had it down to a science, and this was the only place that it just like did not click. Like very quickly, they were like, they smelled the fear on me or something. And like their rules were different, their like value systems were different, and so I couldn't impress them in like the classic ways that I thought always worked. And then it was like, oh damn, like before I thought like, you wear Hollister to school and people will think that you're cool. And then this was like, oh no, you have to wear like Southern preppy clothes, like brands that I don't even know of, like the little whale on the shirt.
A little something.
The politics of what, actually that's one of the straighter things about it, the politics of what's cool and what's not, and also how that differs from what's on TV. Like I distinctly remember being like, when I was in New Jersey, the cheerleaders were not the popular girls. The popular girls were lacrosse and field hockey. Because it was like, in retrospect, I'm like, okay, it was the rich girls. At the time, I didn't know that was, you know, what that signified. But
yeah, it's fun how that works.
Yeah. Or like I remember when I moved to Greece, suddenly I had stuff from like Abercrombie and Hollister that at that point was so passé in New Jersey, but suddenly it was so cool in Greece because it signified an international flair. Your parents had traveled to Manhattan and bought it for you.
Yes. Well, this is what I was going to ask you too. Like when you got there, right? Like obviously you've already got family there. So it's not like you're totally just like, you know, you're not a fish out of water, but you are like, was there currency in being from New Jersey?
There was a sort of like, I mean, I kind of stuck out. Like it was not something, I was just different in a way where it was like, who is this? We've never seen anything like this. And I also like, I'm sure I almost kind of like spoke like an alien in some ways, because I just kind of like my grasp of slang and my grasp of how young people talk was very much stuck in basically what I spoke with my family and what I remember speaking from like when I was like a kid living in Greece. So I was like, I would hear a phrase and then repeat it, but then when I said it, it would be wrong. Like I wouldn't realize. It reminds me of my dad when he first moved to America, had the opposite thing where his second language was English. And so he would hear things, but not realize how formal or casual they were. So for instance, he heard the phrase like, this sucks, as like, okay, this is bad, which is, of course, it's not like a curse word, but then he would start like, he would be speaking to like a professional contact about like something at work and be like, yeah, this brief sucks. And it's like, well, that's not like, yes, you are almost there. But like,
Yes.
that's not the appropriate place to use that. And I feel like that was a lot of my experience.
They were like, this is
Okay.
the coolest coworker I've ever had.
He's just constantly talking about how things
totally
suck.
doesn't give a fuck.
He keeps it real. We
Yeah,
like him
he-
'cause he
yeah,
keeps
yeah,
it
yeah.
real.
Finally, a coworker that keeps it real. Everyone's always doing business talk at me. I think that's the straightest part is the hierarchies that like teens create, and they're like cutthroat hierarchies.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is what I mean. I mean, like, so kind of regardless of where you fall on the spectrum of identity, gender, whatever, right?
100%.
You've got to stick to this hierarchy. You got to stick to it kind of regardless. Like, think about how early aughts, for us, it was all about, the Abercrombie and like puka shell necklaces, and like that made a boy cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then in certain parts of the country, that is, I'm a preppy young gay boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what
In
I
the
mean?
South.
Because there was
In
the cool, yeah,
Virginia.
the South. So exactly. Like, that's the cool, because the cool factor is the brand of it all.
Yeah.
And that's how you're like, I'm a guy. You see him wearing official guy clothes. And it's just like, okay, we all need to calm down. We all need to be dressed like Billie Eilish. That to me
Yeah,
is true
yeah.
equality.
The in-group, out-group, I'll say this. Every school has the one kid that everyone has decided is scum. And that is the scariest thing to me, because I literally remember the name of the kid in New Jersey at my middle school who was that. Like, I'm not going to dox him, but
no,
I
you
truly
should
remember.
find his address.
I bet he's thriving now. I hope he is thriving
You know what? I
now.
bet he is, because I bet he like, and that's, I mean, the straightest thing about high school is that it's all fake. And then you kind of like, you know, as soon as you move on, you realize like that there are alternatives.
Right.
But it's just, but in the moment, you're like, this is it. There's no way out. There's something about it where you have no sense of perspective by definition.
Yeah. There's no life outside of this. And you're like, this is the way it's going to be. And if I don't do this part right, even though you know, like, high school is finite, you know, if you play your cards right. Okay, you're in and out. But it's like, it's finite. And yet you think if I fuck this up, my whole life is ruined. Like, I am established as a certain kind of person and I will never be able to get out of this. And that's what's like such a mess. I mean, you know, it's funny because when I do see people from my past, like high school, middle school stuff, people are very surprised to learn that I'm a comedian, or people who come out of nowhere, because more middle school than high school, but I was a very shy kid. I was very quiet. I used to like cry a lot. Okay. Like, I was that person. So like the last thing you thought I would be doing is like getting up in front of people and talking. You know what I mean? And it's like, but that's also like, that's just what I thought I was going to be. I was like, I'm going to sit and write in my journal.
Yeah.
It's all going to be okay. And this is just my life now.
It's also this thing of like, somehow, even as adults, even when you think you're past it all, there's still that voice in your head that's like, my realist self, like my most true self is who I was in high school somehow. Like the trauma of that stays with you, where you're like, well, I'm faking it if I'm trying to be different. Who I am is this person. And in fact, it's actually just fully not true. Like it really is just not true. And actually, it's like very sad when people have not realized that it's not true and are still basically doing a cosplay of high school.
Well, have either of you gone to your reunions? I haven't, for that reason, because I feel like I don't know. I'm afraid that they will see through whatever I present and be like, bitch, I knew you when you were crying in art class. So I've never gone back. Have either of you gone back?
I have not gone back.
I went to my 10-year high school reunion.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So brave.
It was not a terrible experience, but there was no like redemption narrative. Like I was right where I was, and it's not that I had a bad experience in high school. I just had like the experience that I had. I didn't know who I was. I wasn't out. I like, you know, had some friends, but was certainly not popular, whatever. That's exactly how I felt when I was at this reunion. And that's maybe the saddest thing of all. It's like, it's not like there's no redemption narrative and there was no like dramatic thing where I like got drunk and confronted someone.
Right,
it was just like, wow, yeah, I guess here we are again.
So were you living? You went back to Greece then for that?
I just happened to be, so they do their reunions on, during the holidays. So I was home for the holidays and I went there, yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the
Wow.
classic, you know, when people do Thanksgiving, you know, home for Thanksgiving,
Yep.
and then being like, we're all going to meet up at the bowling alley.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I've
it's
done that. The informal.
There was something, and sorry to call out this person, but there was something that happened that made me stop talking to most people from my high school. And it was a few years after I graduated, I went back and I would basically still be closeted with my high school friends in this weird way where in my mind, I thought like I could have a double life where I was open and out in college and in New York, or not even in New York, in San Francisco at the time, and go back home and none of the information would leak. Everyone would just be like, and now, okay, and we're back. And so I was still in the closet technically, and I went out with a few of my friends who I thought were kind of like progressive. Like I didn't think of them as conservative or anything. And one of them she was like, I have the best gossip. Who in our year is literally gay? And she just goes like, she used a word, I'm trying to like translate it. It was almost like the word like officially or like document. It was like documented gay. Like that was basically the word. It was like he has made it official. And so then everyone in the, it was maybe 4 of us getting a drink. Everyone started guessing names, and then she would react being like, I can see why you would think that, but no.
Oh no.
And so it was this, and I just remember being there and my heart like beating.
Yeah.
I knew she wasn't going to say me. Like she's not she wasn't like a, it's not like she was trying to be cruel, but like just my heart beating and being like, oh, these everyone here is like expressing their unfiltered thoughts about essentially like how they would react if various people came out as gay. And it just went on for like, 10 minutes of like ham or ham or ham. And then it, she said who it was. And then of course she did the whole like, and you know what? I think it's cool that he's gay. Like after everyone had like dragged everyone through the mud.
Oh no.
Oh, God, that is the nightmare. Well, it is the nightmare because it's also like, obviously, she's not going to say you, but this idea that this is even the conversation that takes place.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
People are having this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus Christ.
But to me, that was when I went to their union, it was like my re-entry. I was like, now 10 years later, I don't have to be worried if someone is talking about someone being gay, whatever. And I didn't feel that much better. I mean, I felt confident in myself, but like... That only take you so far.
Yeah. I kind of had not a similar exactly, but like all the people I was friends with in Virginia in high school, like I kind of just never talked to again because I was like, it's almost too like coming out now. It's like not worth it because it's like we're high school friends. We're not gonna be friends forever. And then it was just like, maybe we'll just speed this process up. Like, so, and I kind of feel actually guilty about it because it doesn't give them enough credit, but it is a weird thing where I was like, what do I do? This is going to be like complicated. And they're like definitely still homophobic. They were homophobic 2 years ago. Why would they not be today?
Right. Do you know what I always think about is the 30 Rock episode where she goes back to her reunion and it turns out she has been the bully the whole time?
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most perceptive character things, like just it is so true that as a defense mechanism, you're afraid people will be mean to you or people will bully you. So then you will like ignore people's texts. You will like kind of be closed off in a way that appears aloof.
Yeah, you'll push them away.
And I feel that at times in my life I've done that so hard and only realized it years later.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother.
Oh, brother. We're all living in the past, trying our best to just get invited to the cool lunch table. That's all it is. I mean, I feel like I'm still, I said, who knew that I would end up in an industry where I'm being judged by Jewish women all the time? It literally feels like high school's never ended. Okay, I walk into a room, I'm trying to make a Megan Sarah Lindsay like me, hoping they'll give me money. I mean,
it really is. Yeah, it's really literalizing the high school experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's me trying to get some wealthy white woman to just like decide I'm cool. That's like,
it really
oh
is.
God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, good Lord, who knew this was a choice we'd be making?
And I'm sorry, like, no offense to those industry professionals, because I actually would die for them and will sign a document stating as such. But they are, in many ways, those actual exact people from high school grown up. Like, it's like, there's something where you're like, and now we're back, I guess?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
God.
Oh, brother.
Look at us. You guys, you got to get a picture of Marks.
We need Marks ASAP.
Counting down the
like,
hours.
I need that Mark to go. Oh, my God.
I'll make them in the car.
I'm trying to think of like a high school thing that we can turn it around and be like, I'm literally trying to think of like a prompt that's like, so what's the best thing that you ever, or like, what's the, but I've honestly got nothing.
It's funny because my instinct was to like talk about what specifically is straight about high school in the sense that basically by learning what it is to be straight, you learn what it is to be a person. It's it's almost like that is the structure upon which everything else is built in high school.
Yeah.
So it's just like an inevitable part of growing up is realizing where you fit within heterosexuality.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if you are gay in high school, you're like in opposition to straight.
Yes. And frankly, even if you are straight but undesirable, like if you are the guy that's like hasn't hit puberty yet and people make fun of and is whatever, or if you're the girl who is one of the less popular girls, or you know everyone's different relationship with their body, whatever. It's like this is now the role that you are playing in this theater. Talk about Legally Blonde the musical. Honey, we're in it.
We're in it, honey.
You
This is
best
theater
start
in the
believing
round.
it.
You best start believing in Legally Blonde the musical. You're in it.
You're in it.
Oh my gosh, you guys keep me young. You make me feel like a teen.
Not
you know,
not much longer. You know, our clock is ticking, darling dear.
clock is
tough.
ticking.
It's tough.
Oh,
Let me tell you,
my
we're not going to be getting auditions for the OC reboot for any of the characters.
You might get Peter Gallagher.
Maybe Peter
go
Gallagher.
with
Wow.
Peter.
Drag
Peter.
me.
I learned that is it like Alexis Demi or whatever her name is?
Alexa Demi.
Alexa Demi, that she was like 32 or something, and I was like,
that's off the record.
yeah, sorry,
Her
If
age is
teen
not
comes from me-
available anywhere.
That's one of the Euphorias.
Yeah.
Yep. It's famously, she's one of these people whose age you can't find anywhere and kind of changes based on the interview. Which, by the way, is the right of any woman.
Yes, of course. But I actually found that very inspiring. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna play a teen. It's
Oh, honey, I'm in a movie coming up where they have me as a mom. And when I tell you my kids are like a legit 15 years old, it was harrowing. It was hurtful. I did not meet my children until the big scene when we're in a like a auditorium, and they like just kind of put kids with us because it's like extras. When I tell you my kids are just like grown, one of them's in a sweater and a tie. I said, "This is how old do you think I am?"
It's like people we know in comedy.
I'm Joe Firestone's mother.
It's like, oh, it's Rachel Sennett. Okay.
I was like, wow. I am officially that age.
wow.
But then I'll say this. If you're that age now, if you can play those roles now, well, then you have 30 years ahead of you of being able to play those roles. I mean,
well, but what do you, I think if this is what I'm playing now, in 10 years, I am a grandmother on her deathbed. Okay? I'm the framing device for a flashback film. Okay?
you're dying of old age.
What did she die of? Old.
She died of old. Come closer, baby. Let Grandma tell you a story. Like, that's going to be me in 10 years.
Oh, no. You're going to be the after actor for The Beach That Makes You Old, too.
It's going to be even more of a flash forward in Yellow Jackets. They're doing the 50-year reunion now.
Wow.
Okay, honestly, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Would love the Emmy nom.
That would be huge
Yes.
for everyone in the community. Wow. Should we do our final segment? I mean,
I guess so.
George has to pack before.
George has the back. I know.
I'll be fine.
I love your chill attitude.
Please. I mean, yeah, let's do our final segment. I'm like, it seems like I also realized halfway through that I started talking about high school when in fact the topic was teenagers.
No, it's the same. No, it's
They're
correct.
the same. You can't
correct.
remove the teens from high school, and you
No, you
can't
can't.
remove high school from teens.
You can't remove.
They go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then,
Yeah.
our final segment is called Shoutouts. It's homage to the great straight tradition of the radio shoutout, and in it, we give a shout out to anything that we enjoy, sort of in the style of, imagine it's 2001 and you're in Times Square at TRL shouting out to your squad back home, but about anything that you enjoy.
Which I was at. I
went to
attended
TRL?
TRL multiple times after school.
I didn't go in it. Did you go inside?
No, not in it. Outside.
I remember being outside. And it's funny, I can't actually remember. It was like an actor that I was not old enough to like fully grasp the importance of. It wasn't Sam Jackson, but like it could have been Sam. Like it was someone of that type where like I should have been starstruck, but I wasn't at the time.
Oh, that's so funny. Mine was most definitely NSYNC.
Wow.
Christina Aguilera. I was there for all of them. Okay, like give me my boy bands, girl bands, pops. And then it was funny though because it was very embarrassing because the next day someone was like, "Were you on TRL?" Because when they panned to the outside, I guess I was making some faces or doing something. Where my history teacher was like, "Naomi, I believe I saw you on TRL." And then he goes, "Did you do your homework?" You know, like, because he was like, "You're out on TRL after school. Are you
to be
doing the
fair,
work?"
why is the history teacher watching TRL?
Yeah, and to say something like that, you have no idea. That's stuck with you now, years later.
I know.
I mean, that's actually one of the most toxic things about being a teen that bothers me is that, like, why do I still have my memories from that? Like, that should be gone. I'm a completely different person.
Give me the Eternal Sunshine Surgery stat.
Immediately.
Where's
Like,
Elijah Wood?
The good and the bad, I don't need it. Like, I just don't need that information anymore.
No.
Don't need it.
No.
My life started in 2003. That's what I would like.
Okay, wow. Well, George, do you
Shout-outs.
have one for our final segment?
Do I have one? Great.
I actually do have
Excellent
one.
question. Well, then go ahead.
What's up, everybody, from the East Coast to the West Coast and everywhere in between? I'm Sam, and I would like to give a huge shout out to the artist known as Jennifer Vanilla. Yes, Jennifer Vanilla is a Brooklyn performer, singer, and really, I was listening to their album today at the gym, and I was like, I am in heaven. This is so fun, and sometimes, I'm going to be honest, the vocals were giving Madonna in a way that I was enjoying. Look up Jennifer Vanilla. Yes, I'm giving an indie shout out. The person who is Jennifer Vanilla is named Becca Kaufman, and I met them at a party in 2011, and it was actually very weird. And we've run into each other over the last decade of New York, and they put out this album, and it's really good, called Castle in the Sky, I think, and it's really fun. Jennifer Vanilla, body music, get into it. Woo!
What's up, freaks and losers out there? It's your boy George. I want to give a quick shout out to the concept of actually summer ends at the end of September. I used to think summer ended at the end of August, and I actually was pretty adamant about that, and I thought September 1st, oh, that's when school starts, that's when summer ends. Well, guess what, bitch? We're not in school, and summer is over when it stops being hot out. So maybe grow the fuck up. Leave high school for once, stop trying to sit at the cool kids' cafeteria table, and recognize that September is not only summer, it is prime summer. Because September is when the crowds are, you can go on a vacation and it's less crowded because that's not where people plan their vacation. You can go outside and have it be hot while not melting and literally actually dropping dead on the spot because of heat stroke. And you can actually take a breath without the pressure of, oh, it's August, what are we doing? You set your own rules. And in that way, it's actually more empowering for summer to be in September than for summer to be in August.
Woo!
The end. Woo!
Wow.
George, just a little pushback. I think that's genius for the most part, but I think I have been to the beach around September 21st, and you feel fall. And you can't even will your mind to believe it's summer.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. Maybe try to book a vacation with discounted tickets, because guess what? It's cheaper than it would be otherwise, to a destination where it is, in fact, slightly more hot.
Okay.
And have the vacation other people would pay thousands of dollars for on a budget, on a shoestring budget, in fact.
Okay. This has been a healthy debate, and I appreciate your input.
And also, why not have something end when it's ready to end rather than having it end early and then spending all of September being like, well, maybe not.
Right. Why am I still so sweaty? Why am I still so tired? Right. Well, I just want to give a shout out. Okay. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. I am here to give a shout out to all my friends dealing with their therapists' August vacations. It is so hard the way these therapists just love to be like, I got to take all of August off. And it's like, babe, are you European? I don't think so. And you know what? Depression never stops, okay? Never stop, never stopping. Which means this is a dark time for so many of us. So I just want you to know you're not alone. okay? It's not right, but it's okay. We're going to get through it. And it is just like really offensive to me the way they want to take a whole month off. And it's like, you know what? Why don't you take a few more micro vacations throughout the year as opposed to leaving people in the lurch for a full on 4 weeks? It's rude to be this sweaty and this sad.
Woo! Speak to it. And it's like, why do they get to be the only people living in Europe suddenly?
Yeah.
Exactly.
The rest of the country doesn't get to take all of August off.
I know.
Suddenly, when you're a therapist, you're French and from Lyon.
Suddenly,
I mean-
you're from Barcelona and you're eating paella.
You're from Barcelona?
It's like, where was this when I was asking for travel tips?
No, it's insane.
Suddenly, you're a flamenco dancer?
They get to have their cake and eat it too in like an insane way. Like they get to be a doctor, I think, and
Yeah.
also like get to be a free spirit. And it's like so messed up.
Sam, that is one of the smartest things you've ever said. It really to get to both be a doctor and be a free spirit. Only a therapist can do that.
Only
you
a
get to wear
therapist.
bracelets and kind of a flowy scarf,
Yes, you get to wear just
and then still call people your patients. Excuse me,
Oh,
exactly.
we're peers.
Caftans and you copay? Caftans and copays?
Caftans and
you get it all?
copays.
How do
caftans
you
and
get it all?
copays. I've heard of jewels and drugs, but caftans and
But
copays?
caftans and copays? Well, no, Naomi, this has been an absolute delight.
You guys are a dream.
I think
As always.
as always, and you literally were a co-host and in fact carried this podcast on your back. If you had not been here, we would have been lost. We wouldn't have had anything to say.
You would have been
and-
at each other's throats. It
Yeah,
would have just been
yes.
fighting for an hour.
Sam would have just been yelling at me for not packing and for being obsessed with margs.
Well, I wanted to I wanted to get the storming out of the way so that we could
Yeah.
be norming by tonight when we arrive at midnight-ish.
I know it is
My
going to be.
gosh.
like-
Okay, get out of here. Get off this
All right.
podcast right now. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Naomi.